the Forged podcast. We're excited to be talking about things that are happening in Delaware, specifically being bold and courageous in Delaware. And we're going to be bringing you interviews and talks with people throughout our state who are being bold and courageous and helping us learn how we can be better. But with me today is somebody that I'm so excited to talk with, because I'm just so excited what God's doing in his life. But this is Christian Hodges with me today, and Christian and I go way back, sort of.
Sort of.
But Christian now has his own podcast. So tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, so it's called America Don't Give Up. Season 1 ended in like the first of the year with Dr. Ben Carson as the final episode.
Wow.
But we had Eric Metax as number 3, Tom Homan, Nick Freitas.
You've had all of them on.
Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House.
Nice.
Alex Clark, Maha, all of the people.
I guess
Tommy
you can't
Lauren.
say who's your favorite one. Who was your favorite interview?
I guess I got to say Dr. Carson.
Yeah.
It was his birthday.
Yes, we love Dr.
Yeah.
Carson. He comes through here quite a bit.
He does.
Yeah.
He's got family in Delaware, actually.
Yeah, it's great to see him.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to first talk about how we first met. And because if you don't mind me saying, you're only 20,
Right.
and you are covering a lot of ground. And so it's just such an encouragement to people my age, older, to see young people taking up that torch of liberty. But most importantly, I know the fire that's burning in your heart for the gospel. But I first met Christian when he was a sophomore in high school, right? And he was working on a special project in high school and called the organization, Delaware Family Policy Council, and we were able to offer some mentoring and insight into some things that he was working on, and really his heart. God was really forming and shaping your passion then. So what do you remember about that?
Yeah, I think my mom's known about you for a while.
Yeah.
So she definitely told me to reach out. She's always right, isn't she?
Yes,
always.
that's good. That's
Yeah.
good. You're a good son.
But you said something I wanted to touch on. You said, and I'm picking up the torch. The critical part of that is like your generation handing the torch off. That's a big problem that I think young people see, is that we don't feel as if the torch is actually being handed, and it feels like it's being held back from us. But you led by example there, and you actually handed it off, because when we met sophomore year of high school, the relationship developed into senior year, where you offered me an internship to work with DFPC senior year, and then you became an advisor on my senior thesis project, which really launched everything I'm doing now, because that became a book and everything else.
Well, that was fun,
Yeah.
because you took an opportunity in school with a project, you turned it into something that you're passionate about, and got input on it. But I think the way that you intentionally stewarded that opportunity that the school gave you in an assignment of all things, I mean, most students don't look at it that way. It's like, let me just get this done. I'm a senior. My gosh, get me out of here. But you were really deliberate about that. And I know that it was great when we came to watch you deliver it, and you had to produce a product, and it was your book. And you're right. Boy, what a trajectory since then. So what happened after that? How did you get this podcast going?
Before we talk about what happened after that, we got to talk about what happened before that. 'Cause
Okay.
I wish I could take credit for like the book and writing that, being deliberate in that. But frankly, that was not my idea, not my plan to do any of that. Because senior year of high school, over Christmas break, Delmarva Christian has J-term, right?
Right.
So this is in 2023. So I was planning to go on a missions trip to Jamaica with Tim Dukes, Representative Dukes.
Yeah,
He was leading the trip with my high school. And I was super excited about that. So I thought the Lord was going to use me on my first missions trip. And no one forgets that opportunity, right?
Right.
Your first missions trip. So I was super excited about that. That's how the Lord was going to use me. At least I thought. So I was supposed to leave on Monday morning, on January 2nd, Monday morning, to leave for Jamaica. And the night before, on Sunday night, I was sick with the flu, and I wasn't feeling good. But then my mom canceled the trip Sunday night. I didn't leave Monday. On Wednesday of that same week, 2 days later, I didn't wake up. I spent 9 days in the hospital, 6 days unconscious. And I was in a coma for 6 days. And what they call viral encephalitis, which is the swelling and inflammation of the brain.
Now, let me just say that we got a call from your dad when that happened.
Right. You were one of the first calls.
And our team went into intercession and just praying before the Lord for you every day. Your dad called and gave us an update every day, and we prayed with him on the phone
Right.
as you were fighting for your life.
Right. And they didn't
And that
have any
happened so
answers.
fast.
Right. And I just, all of a sudden, they rushed me to BB that morning, Wednesday morning. And then they did a spinal tap, an MRI, a CAT scan, everything you can imagine, all the blood tests.
Right.
And rushed me to AI DuPont, the Children's Hospital, for better care. But in that, the doctors didn't know if I would survive, let alone be normal again, let alone speak or even write again. Because when I woke up that first week in the hospital, I couldn't speak when I woke up. I couldn't speak. Now all I'm doing is speaking. But that night that I woke up, like that first week in the hospital in AI DuPont, it was like midnight. I remember waking up. So I don't remember anything from the 9 days, mind you. The whole 9 days just disappeared from my memory. My mom just calls it the lost 9. Not like the back 9 on a golf course, but the lost 9.
Wow.
But that first week in the hospital, and then I'm waking up in the hospital bed at midnight. There's a basketball game on TV. It's like Gonzaga versus Chapel Hill. But I remember like these little details. And this TV was super bright. I was trying to focus on it. I couldn't. My brain was literally fried because my fever got up to 109 degrees while I was unconscious. But I remember at that point there was one thought in my mind. I wish I had it with me, but it's where's my Bible? I have one of those big ESV thick study Bibles. All of high school, I was known for carrying that around with me. That's what I was known for, right? Always taking it to every class with me. I couldn't miss it. So I remember like ripping the IV out of my arm and stumbling across the hospital room. My mom's on a futon, my dad's in the recliner. And I remember finding my Bible on the windowsill at midnight, like huffing and puffing, getting back to my bed, laying down, and just flipping it open to a random page. I couldn't tell you where that was, but at that point, I remember crying out the only 2 words I could find the strength to mutter. It was, I surrender. And what do you know, within 24 hours later, I was literally running laps around that hospital floor, away from the doctors, because they're trying to do more like blood tests and everything. I'm saying, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. So to your point, people like you are the reason why I'm still here. I've been a Christian since I can remember, right? Raised in a Christian home, Christian school, and I know Jesus. I like personal relationship with Jesus, and I was known as a spiritual leader in high school. But it wasn't until like that moment in that hospital that I experienced the power of prayer, where people talk about miracles, but when do you experience miracles? How many people get to experience a miracle? So my life is a miracle.
Yes.
So what I'm doing now, that's what it all goes back to. I remember why I'm doing it, because of what he's done for me. So I get out of the hospital on a Friday. I remember you were one of the first texts that my dad made. As soon as we were in the truck leaving that day, I remember you texting me back, like as we're driving home from Wilmington that day. The number of people who were praying for me is insane to think about. In Jamaica and Europe and South Carolina and Texas and North Carolina and California and New Mexico, all over the country, there's a whole prayer chain that are started by people like you, which is why I'm here. But I get out on that Friday, and I start the new semester of high school on Monday.
Yeah.
So it was like back to back.
I couldn't believe
rest.
that. Yes.
No rest.
'Cause, they didn't think you were going to pull through.
No.
It was really, are we going to lose him?
Right. They really, because viral encephalitis has a 10% mortality rate. So if you want to talk about COVID mortality rate, viral encephalitis is a lot worse. But like on Monday, that last semester of high school, I had read a 20-page paper, senior thesis project, which you were my advisor on, one of the advisors. And originally, I chose the topic of declining birth rates in Japan, the trajectory that America's on. And it's a really good topic. Someone still needs to write about it today. I still want to. But a month into the class, I had nothing done. All my buddies had 8 or 10 pages done of like the project. They're halfway done. I don't even have a thesis statement done. So a month in, I changed my topic. I'm like, I got to get this together. And I choose something that would be easier for me. So I chose freedom of speech, not knowing how much there was to freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So within the next 6 weeks after that, instead of writing 20 pages, I wrote 70. So my teacher was not too happy with me, but she was happy for me. She wasn't happy with me, just happy for me. That I was able to get it done. But like as I'm doing that, it's in like April that I can't drive for 4 months, by the way. Like as a senior in high school, I can't drive. So that's like the end of the world. As a senior in high school, I can't drive myself anywhere.
Because of your illness?
So my mom picked me up that day in April, and I'm reading to her what I wrote the day before just to get my mom's feedback. She's going to tell me it's the best thing in the world. I needed that encouragement. So I was reading to her, and we were pulling into the driveway. What she said changed my course. She said, "I'll never forget it. I see some books in your future." So at that point, it's like a light bulb. Most people are going to say, no, "I'm going to write a book before I die. That's my life goal. I want to write a book before I die." Now, I'm a little crazy, so I took it as if I want to become an author before an adult. I want to publish my first book before I turn 18. At this point in high school, I'm 17 in April. So over the next 2 months, I dedicate all my time, staying up till midnight, 1 in the morning, still in high school, trying to figure out how to write a book. And there's not a contact in my phone of someone who had written a book before, who knew anything about it. I'm just researching it by myself, trying to figure it out. So I ended up doing it, and I met my goal on June 29th, day before my 18th birthday. I published my book called America, Don't Give Up Your Right to Freedom of Speech. And a week before that, in high school, I think my buddy Richard remembers it, that maybe I got a little carried away, and maybe I was a little delusional. But in high school, I was like, I'm going to make this as big as possible, and this I'm going to write a book. Nobody believed me, for one. Everyone thought I was crazy. But I also said, I'm going to get this on Fox. I have no idea how I'm going to do that. A week before the book comes out, the only social media I have is LinkedIn. And I'm finishing the final thing on the book, and I hear a message come through, and it's LinkedIn, and it's Fox News reaching out the next day to have me on to talk about a thing called Gen Z. I couldn't tell you what that was then. All I do is talk about Gen Z. Yeah. So the next morning, I'm up at 3 in the morning to do this Fox News hit. And afterwards, I'm on an adrenaline high. If you've ever experienced that from TV, it's an adrenaline high. I feel like that's why I do it now. It's just an adrenaline hit. I'm just addicted to it.
That's an interesting perspective. It scared me to death, but that's an interesting perspective.
It's an adrenaline high for sure. But after I was reflecting on that hit, I went into solitude, just reading and praying that morning, as I would every morning after that hit. And I think the Lord reminded me of something. Pulled something out of my mind. If we go back to sophomore year of high school, the year that we met, that's the time the Lord really spoke into my life, my mission, my calling. And what he reminded me of then, after that first Fox hit in June of 2023, he reminded me that he told me back in sophomore year, in a time of solitude, that I want to make you a voice for this generation. I never believed it. Then I was like, "You're funny. You're funny."
Or what in the world does that?
Right.
Look
What
like?
does that even? Just okay, God. Okay, if that's what you want. Okay. So after that, he brought that back to mind, and I was like, "Hold on, God. You're saying, what did you just have me on to talk about? As Gen Z, as a representative of my generation, you just did it. You just made me speak for the whole generation." So it was kind of that epiphany. This is what the Lord's called me to do. So at that point, there was no looking back. I couldn't be Lot's wife and look back and go live the normal life. It was always just fully going forward, knowing the Lord's called me to do this. So over the next few months, basically I had a little book tour going on. Fox kept calling, then Newsmax, and then every channel kept calling. Then I went to Liberty University on campus freshman year in 2023. And obviously that helped the book and everything. But it wasn't until the next summer that I started the podcast and everything. I felt the Lord calling me there. So that's why I did all of that. So to answer your question,
is this only 1 year?
This is all within. Yeah.
You went from being at death's door,
right,
to finishing your senior year and doing your senior thesis project, making it into a book,
right,
publishing the book, and then ending up on Fox.
Right. That was all within not a year, but within 6 months. That was January 2023 to June 2023. And all of that happened. And if I could add one more thing in there.
We were all cheering you on, just so you know.
Yeah, you're all praying for him. That's why I'm here.
We're cheering you on. Look at him go.
But if I could add one more thing there, that kind of was another epiphany moment. My whole life, I've always been the shy kid to hide behind my mom's leg. And I've never been the guy to talk, whether it's to one person like this or to multiple people, or let alone give a speech to a crowd. I never liked talking. Until I realized that the Lord's called me to it, for one. But after that Fox hit, I also had another epiphany that back in February, I went back for a checkup appointment with the neurologist and rheumatologist, all those people. But as I was seeing the neurologist, he asked me 2 questions before he cleared me. He asked me, "What's the square root of 625?" I just rattled it off because I was good at math. And then he asked me, "Who's the president?" And I was so like sharp and on it that day. I even hesitated to say Joe Biden as if he was elected president. And then I rattled off the last 15 presidents, just because I've always loved that stuff. But then as we're walking out of the door, I'm almost out of the door, and he grabs me. He says, "Christian, I never want to see you again, unless you're on TV." So I don't know how many times I've been on TV in the last week, let alone the last year or 2 or 3 of all of this happening. So I got to thank that doctor one of these days and talk to him. Yeah. So I know without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, and this is what the Lord's called me to do. So I know the why behind it, why he saved me and all of those. I know the what. I'm still figuring out the how. So there's been a lot of like a revelation the past 13 days. I've talked to Morris Webster about this quite a bit lately, about what this looks like, the Lord's calling on my life, to be a voice for this generation, to see revival coming to Gen Z, and to see America come back to God. It's like a threefold mission there. And I'm sure we'll get into the Charlie stuff here in a minute, but we could talk a lot about that.
Okay, so you went now from Fox News and being on so much, and it's amazing how interested they have been in the voice of Gen Z. But then all of these different people, like really big voices in our faith, family, freedom movement nationally, coming on to your podcast. And is that because, why is that? Is it because they're really encouraged that there's somebody that's young that's taking the torch and excited?
Right, I think it's definitely part of that. I made like a twofold mission of the podcast, because I realized like what people want. And what people want is that we need truth to come to Gen Z, we need truth to come to my generation, but we also need hope to come to your generation. That's what you're looking for. That's the 2 responses I get. From young people I get, "Thank you for telling me this. I learned something. I needed to hear this." Mm-hmm. From you, I hear, "You give me so much hope for the future. I thought I gave up on the next generation. I thought America was done at 250 years, like all the other republics that came before us. I thought we were going to be done." So it's hope for the next generation. It's hope for your generation, and it's truth for my generation. But also, speaking of young people now, the biggest asset that young people have, and we don't realize it until we use it, is our youth. Amen. That youth gets you in the doors. You can be the youngest person in the room and be the most valuable person in the room.
That's right.
You think you're the least valuable person, but you get singled out, and people want to see that because that gives you hope. But they want to pour into you.
Yeah, we
they want to invest
about that
into you
at Patriot Academy. Right. That's why we're training as much as we can and equipping young people, because when you walk into those spaces, it's like they put out the red carpet for you.
They do.
And they want to hear your voice. So it's just making sure that our young people are equipped and identifying young people who have an appetite for truth. You know, obviously your parents cultivated that appetite in you, but to want to contend for truth, right? And then we get behind you and equip you as much as possible so that you can go into those arenas.
Right, your famous saying is, "One person strategically placed will take territory," right?
Look at that.
One person strategically
it came back to me.
will take territory. But I think that's the story of my life, the story of what I've been doing here. And young people don't realize that, because that was like my whole pitch to Eric Metaxas, Tom Home, and Newton Gingrich even. I can't go reach out to these guys, ask, "Would you hop on a 30-minute phone call with me? I'd love to pick your brain and talk about the wealth of your knowledge that you have." I can't go do that, right? Most people can't.
So how did you present that?
The pitch is, "I'm a young person doing this. I've already done this and that. These people have already supported me. Will you come and be the next?" Who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to add their name to the list? So they all bit, and I think I probably had 3 people say no that I reached out to the whole time. And it's all because of like travel logistics, and they couldn't make it happen. They wanted to, they couldn't. So it was never a no. It was always yes, when and how and where. Yes, they were excited to do it.
Yeah.
But speaking of like the name of the show, before we move on to the Charlie stuff, we have to hit on this part. In that whole hospital story.
Forged.
In that whole hospital story, I meant to wear the shirt today, but as they're transporting me in an ambulance from BB to AI DuPont on that first day, I'm in the back of the ambulance, all over the place, throwing up, and they're doing all kinds of tests. My mom's in the front of the ambulance. She's just praying and calling
Oh.
people, and my dad was away in Florida, so she was by herself. And I'm in the back. She sees like the camera, like as you see an ambulance is looking at in the back, on the bed in the back. And in that moment, she hears so vividly from the Lord. She hears the Lord say to her that Christian's going to stand and speak. And the shirt that I was wearing, like that day that I woke up in, I wore to bed, and I was wearing in the ambulance that day. I wore most of the time in the hospital because I didn't change. Was a DFPC shirt that you had given me earlier in senior year, and it was a shirt that said "Forged under pressure." So if you think about what encephalitis is the swelling and inflammation of the brain. What is inflammation? Pressure and heat. Forged
Oh,
under pressure.
wow.
So there's no, once again, no shadow of a doubt that I'm where the Lord wants me to be, and that He's strategically called me, and He's also equipped me with people like you.
Wow, that is deeply encouraging. I have never heard all of that before, and it is wonderful to hear how God did exactly that.
Right.
So fast forward to you're out of the hospital, and we went through all of where God led you after that. How, because of all that has happened in the last 2 weeks, how did you come into contact with Turning Point USA and to have the relationship that you did with Charlie
Right.
Kirk?
I think I first met Charlie, I want to say it was 2021. So this is like before all my book and everything happened. I first met Charlie in 2021. I think that was my first ever political event I went to. Was a Turning Point USA Student Action Summit. I think that was in Tampa.
I remember that.
Yeah, I went
Okay.
to that. I think it was 2021, and I was super excited about it back then. I'd really never met anyone famous, if you want to call it. So I waited in line to meet Charlie, just to shake his hand and get a picture with him. But over time, I met him again here and then there and then there. Then this year, I finally got to like build a relationship with him, which I was super excited about. 'Cause that's just been a goal of mine. Like if you would have asked me like 2 years ago to pick two people and try to learn from and actually have a relationship with, you know the two people I would have said? Dr. Ben Carson and Charlie Kirk. And those
And
are
now
two
you're-
people I've
and-
gotten close
and
with
you're
over the
close
past
with
year.
him. Oh gosh, that's wonderful.
So I think it all happened really around inauguration. I first really got in touch with him. And then over the past year, I've been able to build a relationship with him. Last time I was with him was in March or April, I think, when he came to University of Tennessee. So the past 2 weeks kind of hit me because at University of Tennessee, I was in the tent with him in the same kind of event. Prove me wrong, outside, outdoor amphitheater, sloped down, like outdoor outfield with tall student buildings around. Anything could have happened. And I know for a fact that when I hugged him that day, he was not wearing a bulletproof vest or anything. I was standing next to a security team most of the day. I was out there with him. But over time, just building that relationship with him over text, and I was texting with him just a few days before the tragic assassination about doing my podcast. So he would have been on
Wow.
if it hadn't have been.
Wow, Christian. So you had access before we get into the memorial service, because you have some insight there that I want to ask you about. But you also work at the White House. You go back and forth as a
I don't really work for the White House. They just call
Okay.
me in as an advisor
Okay.
for Gen Z.
For Gen Z.
Yeah.
Okay. And they want your ideas. They want your
Yeah.
insight on that. And
Right. So
I mean, what a door to open.
Right, it is. And back when I wrote the book, I set 2 goals for myself. Back when I was writing the book, my first goal was to become an author before an adult, publish the first book before I turned 18. So that was the first goal. The second goal I set for myself was to go work in the White House when Trump was reelected. This is in 2023. So back when I was working with Dr. Ben Carson during the election, I worked on the Faith Coalition with him and for his nonprofit ACI. So I was able to do his podcast, all the comm stuff, and get involved in the right circles in Trump's world. So back then, I got scouted by Caroline Leavitt and her team in October. So for 4 months, I was in consideration to go and join Caroline Leavitt's White House press team. So a week before inauguration, maybe a few days before inauguration, Caroline calls and says no. So it's kind of a bummer right then, like right before inauguration, and don't get it, not knowing how much is in the air and all of that. So after Caroline said no, I went to a different White House position that I was in consideration for. And then it went to State Department, then Department of Defense, and then Ambassador, and then back to the White House, and then HUD, and then you know how it works. It went one to another to another. And in May, I think I finally stepped back and said, okay, I'm done pursuing all of this. The Lord slammed all those doors. What do you want me to do now? You're obviously changing my direction now. Because I was thinking, Lord, I set that goal at number 2. I want to go work in the White House. And you've brought all these connections. I know all these people, and they're talking to me. They're still talking to me. But why isn't the door just opening? And I stepped back a little bit. I was like, obviously, you're repositioning me, realigning me. How? So I took probably the summer really to think about that, to pray about that. I talked with Morris about that quite a bit. And now I think it's really been the past month, 6 weeks. I've really began to realize what that looks like now. And Charlie's death has really set a fire in me. It's convicted me of all the apathy that I've ever had. I've never felt the weight of my calling more than I have now.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because you were at the memorial that so many of us watched, and I don't even really have any words for that experience. It was a historical experience taking place, history in the making, the largest event of its kind ever. I just want to add that for those of you who don't know of Frank Turek and the Cross-Examine podcast, highly recommend that as well. But because Frank gives a real behind the scenes of what happened there. But that young team, I think the average age, I'm not real sure, it's mid-20s of the Turning Point team, but they pulled off the largest event in history in, he said, 7 days. I mean, there was no time for their mourning. There was no time. I mean, hopefully they're doing that now, but it was enormous. I mean, at the last time, just 2 days ago, when we looked at it, 100 million live streams happening. And that's not accounting all the people who are watching the live streams. That's actually live stream downloads that happen. In addition to the maybe 200,000 who were there, who were not just in the one stadium, but also in stadiums around the area. Just absolutely unmatched. It's just stunning what happened. But I know the speakers who were there were on row 3, and you found yourself on row 5. So I am, we were watching it from home in tears. I mean, there were moments even through the airwaves, just watching it live stream, that you could sense and witness the presence of God so heavily in a life-changing way. So I want to hear your perspective, being on row 5 of that. What really stood out to you? Yeah,
so I figured if I was going to make the trip out there, let me see who I can call to get confirmed seats. I'm going to make the whole trip across the country. So I called Pastor Lucas Miles, if you know him, the head of Turning Point Faith, and he said, yeah, I'll make it happen for you. So he got me in there. And when I showed up, I woke up at 3 a.m. that morning on Sunday. Got about 2 hours of sleep. Woke up at 3 in the morning. I hopped on Newsmax at 4:45, and then at 4:45 a.m. And then hopped in an Uber right after that. Headed to the stadium. Got to the stadium at 6:30 in the morning. Walked the last mile and a half to make it to the stadium because of all the traffic. And I'm sweating bullets because most people don't know it's 98 degrees that day in Phoenix. So even in the morning, it's like almost 90 degrees when we're walking out there. So we're showing up, and even when I got there like 6:30 in the morning, there's probably 50,000 people already there, at least.
In line?
If not 100,000 already there in line, if not. So thankfully, I called Lucas there. I was like, so how are we getting in here? What's going on? And he's like, well, they just shut off foot traffic to the entrance. You have to go in. So Secret Service is peeing in pain, if you will. So I walked over there to Secret Service.
So. Doing their job.
Right, they are doing their job. And I walked over there. We were trying to figure out how to get in. And, thankfully a truck is, coming by, F-450 or something, is coming through, to go park. So I asked Secret Service, not really asked them, I just hopped in the bed of the truck with, 3 other people. And we rode through the Secret Service checkpoint and got in. That's the way we were supposed to do it, apparently. It was that messed up because there was so many people there. But inside, what happened over the next 8 hours, the only word that I can drum up and try to describe it is indescribable. So it's kind of counterintuitive, I think. But even in like, this was like the ultimate who's who of politics. You said it's the biggest, baddest event that's happened, right? 100,000 people in the stadium. They booked a whole overflow stadium.
Right.
Not just overflow room, not just overflow building, overflow
Yeah.
stadium. So I was thankful I was able to be on the floor. I was just sitting right behind the speakers. And in the morning, honestly, I don't think anyone really knew how it was going to go.
Yeah.
And nobody even knew there was really going to be worship. Nobody knew they were going to have all those speakers. All we knew is the president, the vice president, Erica were going to speak
Yeah,
early.
right.
We didn't know when any of that was going to happen. But we get in there, talk to a couple people, and it's just that kind of event where you take a turn, you see 15 people that you know, and you take another turn, another 15. So we got to our seats, and we sat down for about 5 minutes, and then we see Brandon Lake and Phil Wickham and Kerry Jobe and Cody Carnes and walk on the stage, and for the next 2 or 3 hours, they led us in worship. And I don't know, the air felt heavy, not in like a humid way, not in like a bad way, but in a way that you knew the Holy Spirit was there. There was no question in my mind. I can't count the number of times where I just like stopped. I looked around like at the whole stadium, people in the nosebleeds, people filling in every seat possible, and they were all worshiping. So in the ultimate who's who, with Elon Musk there during worship, Tulsi Gabbard there, the director of national intelligence, who is supposed to be a Hindu, that we see them worshiping. That's the number one thing that I felt in the moment that really brought me to tears more than once in the moment at the memorial, was this is literally what we've been praying for. Not just for years, not just for our life, for generations. This is what we've been praying for.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing our government have more passion, more boldness, more zeal for the gospel than many pastors in our churches in America. Like Eric Metaxas' letter to the American church, it was a letter to the American government that the American government's leading the revival. That's not what we ever dreamed. Like, we can talk about like how we thought revival would come to this country. Like, we've probably had those conversations too. Like, how can we spark revival? I mean, that's the end of the matter, is that only God can spark revival. That's what we're seeing now, that even Charlie's death has sparked revival.
Yeah.
And that there's no question in my mind now. The revival is here. You can look around all those people. And Rob McCoy was the first speaker.
Yes.
After the national anthem.
Yeah.
Can we talk about his speech?
That was powerful. Right at the onset,
right.
set the tone for everything.
He set the tone. And you know how he set the tone? He told a couple of stories. He said, Charlie always told me, because Rob McCoy was Charlie's pastor, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how he was known, and he was the head of Turning Point Faith as well. But Rob said, Charlie always told me that I would be America's pastor, that I am America's pastor. And Rob kind of laughed at him every time. He said, you're funny. I'm not America's pastor. I'm some small pastor, right? Still has a mega church, albeit. But Rob stopped right then. He just looked around at the stadium, looked like into the camera and said, oh, darn, Charlie, I think you're right. You were right. You proved me wrong. Charlie proved me wrong. And said, right now, I'm America's pastor. So let me do Charlie right. Mm-hmm. And he preached the gospel. Mm-hmm. And that was a beautiful delivery of the gospel. Everyone watched it. Yeah, really. And at the end of that, he said, now I've got one request of all of you here, all of the 100,000 here, all of the believers, everyone who's confessed Jesus as Lord, sit down. Remain sitting. Everyone who feels that tug on their heart to confess Jesus as Lord, and that Charlie's death has done something to you, has led you closer to Christ, has led you to Christ, stand up. So that was the best execution of an altar call that I've ever witnessed. I told you that on the phone the other day, because not only did he have them stand, and you obviously saw the people be like a groundhog, they hop up and hop down as people were doing an altar call at a local church. But then he said, okay, so now you all took the stand for Christ. So now all you believers, I want you to go into action. Not just the people who need to take the stand, all you believers. Someone stood up next to you, go pray for them right now.
That's right.
So the next 30 minutes was just worship and praying for people all around you. I would say, when I looked around, just spun around and looked around all the people standing up, I would say it was 1 out of 10 in that stadium stood up.
Thousands of people stood up to make a commitment to Christ.
Right.
And that is what stood out to you the most in that moment.
Like, let alone the people watching. Who stood up on their couches or watching, whether they were in the car or listening to it or not. But think about this, that we said 100,000 were there in that stadium, another 100,000 were in the overflow, and Fox is telling me that there's 300,000 total there. So there's almost 100,000 outside who never made it into overflow or that stadium, and 300,000 there, like on the ground. How many people were watching live on Fox, on CNN, on Newsmax, on MSNBC? Everyone is streaming it. Who saw all the clips posted on Twitter? The ones that Elon Musk retweeted that go crazy viral. How many people saw the reels on Instagram, on YouTube, and all these social media platforms?
Yeah.
How many millions of people saw each one of those?
Yeah.
So it was
right.
estimated that 100 million saw the live stream. On top of all the social media clips that were posted, I would make the point that more people witnessed the gospel, heard the gospel, whether for the first time or for the 50th time on Sunday at the memorial, listening to it, than Billy Graham ever reached in his entire lifetime. So put that into perspective.
Yeah.
That Charlie's death brought that. That the Billy Graham that we always see was the ultimate pastor of America, right? Preached to how many presidents?
Yeah.
That Charlie's death brought the gospel to more people in a day, in 8 hours, in 3 hours of the speeches than Billy Graham did in how many years of his life? Almost 100 years of his life. Put that into perspective.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't think about all of the hits after that initial live stream.
That's the power
You're
of
right.
social media. We can
You're
say
right.
it's so bad, but look at what it does for the gospel.
Yeah, if we use it for kingdom
Right.
purposes. So there were a couple points there live. I want to know about live because when we were watching it, crying, there was this, and worship was amazing. And if anyone hasn't seen this, it is so worth your time to go back and watch it. Watch it in bits and pieces, but go and watch the worship for sure. And some of these speeches that are getting all of this play. But there are a couple of things that stood out. One is when the violinist, and I think the guy in the cello, I think they're married actually, when they began, it was just like impromptu worship. And everyone around the stadium held up their signs. Mm-hmm. And it was like 9 minutes of just a touch of heaven, like what I would imagine heaven to be like. It was such a holy moment. Mm-hmm. That's what it felt like with me watching.
Right.
What was that like for you being there?
Right. That was one of the times that I got up from my seat because I had to go get a drink. So I went up to the concourse.
But it was 9 minutes.
So I went up to the concourse and I happened to run into Rick Green up there and just walking around. And then we're coming back down and we walk like into it. So we were like on the floor, like walking into it, which I think was almost the better perspective that you could have got on TV or could have got sitting in your seats. So you got to walk through the middle of it and see it like unfold just in real time. And I mean, I think you're just taken back in awe. You almost don't even want to move. You just want to take it all in and sit there. I don't know how to describe that. I wish I did. But just like walking in and just looking around.
Awestruck.
Yeah. Awestruck.
Yeah. Awestruck and wonder. Yeah. I've never witnessed that with that many people. Extraordinary.
There's not a dry eye in the room.
I was going to ask about that. So they get up and there's so many wonderful highlight reels. Again, I encourage people to go and listen to the Frank Turek podcast as he recounts what happened. And it is all over YouTube and social media by now. But there were a couple other moments, when I was talking with you about it. I couldn't wait to talk with you about it. But you mentioned when there was a collective gasp across that huge arena. Tell me about it.
We're referring to when the moment that no one will ever forget, the moment that defined the memorial, when Erica Kirk is on the stage, and I think it was really powerful. Even when she was walking out, the time that it took for her to get from backstage, like after she came out of the curtain to the podium, it wasn't an accident, and it wasn't like it was some stage act or anything. But you saw her stop multiple times. You can see her lips moving, just praying for God to give her the strength. Yes. You can hear people verbally praying all around
her.
You can hear her people praying for her as she's walking.
Emotions. Yeah.
Right, as she's walking onto the stage. Eric Metaxas is sitting right behind me. He's praying. David Harris Jr. is right in front of me. He's praying. Everyone around is praying for her out loud. as she's walking onto the stage.
By the way, these are all huge influencers with their own platform. So
Right.
as you hear him use names, go and look up these people.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
do.
so you can hear the hum, I'm sure,
Right.
of everyone praying for her.
No, you definitely can.
Yeah.
And it set the tone. The tension was built, ready for her to get on the stage. In the middle of her speech, she just paused, and she took a step back, and not as if she didn't want to do it, but as if you can see the mental capacity that went into it and how she's dealt with this over the past 13 days now, making the decision.
Yeah.
She made the decision to forgive Tyler Robinson. And in that moment,
You could see the Holy
it was
Spirit. You
it
could
was-
see the Holy Spirit moving.
right. You can hear it too when
You could
everyone just
hear it, see it,
gasped.
experience it. So
Right.
everyone gasped at that point.
It was all in sync. Everyone just gasped all in once. Everyone stood up and was standing ovation for probably 2 minutes. And I think that's the most powerful thing I've ever witnessed. I think everyone in that room would say the same thing. I don't think, once again, there was not a dry eye in that moment. I don't care who you were. There was not a dry eye.
That was the pinnacle moment.
It was. I mean,
That is the gospel.
it is. And the only way she was able to show that kind of love is she's experienced that love from Christ.
Yeah.
So you can preach the gospel all you want until you live it like that.
Yeah.
There's no presentation of the gospel like there is living it.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be consequences for his
Right.
actions. There will be
law exists.
consequences. So some people get really confused about forgiveness. Because you forgive someone, you think that they're not going to have consequences for those actions.
I mean, there's
but-
multiple components to every decision that you make. There's a mental component that you premeditate something. There's an emotional component that you're struggling within yourself to do something. There's also physical component of you actually doing it. There's a spiritual component, as there is with everything. There's also a legal component with everything you do. You go choose to make a stupid decision right after this podcast. You go drive 50 in a 25 in a school zone. You're going to get pulled over, and you're going to be held accountable, get a ticket. But the cop is still going to choose to forgive you, and I think that is the gospel. And speaking of like the marriage side of it, Charlie didn't get married until he was 28, I want to say, because he was 30. He got married in 2022, I think.
27.
He got married in 2022. Maybe it was
Okay.
2021. But he met Erica in 19, I think. I think everyone's heard the story about how they got together.
Yes,
that
beautiful story.
He wanted to hire her, and there's like, "Nah, I want to date you," like in a job interview. And I mean, that love story that even they shared, even
Yes.
Erica shared the secret of their marriage. That every Saturday they would write love notes to each other. You could, it wasn't like tension. It was just everyone can feel the love that they had between each other. That love was shared between the 100,000 people there, as she said that. And you can see the love that she had for Charlie. There's a number of times that she just stopped just to like say I love you to Charlie as she's
Yeah,
speaking.
yeah. Well, what was so elevated to the highest level was what biblical marriage looks like.
Right.
Their example of this is what marriage should look like. And she spoke directly to the men. She spoke directly to women. And it was just so wonderful to actually have an example in them of what she's talking about, right? It wasn't this
Right.
thing like this is what it should look like, or well, she said that, but I mean, without a frame of reference. She
Right.
and Charlie gave the frame of reference, and it played out.
Right. I think when we
It's
read
played out
Proverbs
so
31
beautifully.
and Ephesians 5, it can become redundant, and you can hear all the sermons about it, and say, I want to be a Proverbs 31 woman, and all the trendiness of that, right? Until you see it in action like that. It's
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah.
And that's when we actually learn,
Yeah.
I think.
Boy, her challenge to men was just profound.
Right.
With such fierceness. It was really, like you said, I mean, it's something you'll never forget. One of the most powerful moments. It's going to be really exciting when you have children to be able to tell them, I was there. We're going to go watch this. You're going to know who this guy was.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just hearing so much every day now, Christian. People are contacting us saying, I feel this burn inside of me. I don't know what to do with it. And I said, that's revival. What you feel, the revival starts inside of us.
Right.
And now we need to go out and we need to disciple. Right.
I think Richard and I just got a text last night from two buddy of ours who are pretty apolitical, like not really involved. They're obviously conservative. They understand, not like they're involved, but they just felt the conviction And these aren't people who would go out and do something. They felt the conviction for the first time in a while. They felt the burn of the Spirit. And I thought about it for a second as I was praying for them. And we always talk about revival. We've talked about revival coming. Perhaps in the past it's been wish casting, because part of prayer is faith. That we have to believe in what we're praying for, that it will come, right? That's asking you shall receive, believe and it will happen. That's what prayer is, a part of it. And we've prayed for revival. We believe that revival will come. Frankly, revival's here now. It's not wish cast and say revival's here. We experienced it on Sunday there. But the part about revival that I don't think many people talk about is we always talk about like a sweeping revival that's going to come over the country and it's going to set these college campuses on fire, which I believe it will. I think it will start these college campuses because of like the legacy Charlie leaves. Part of why I want to do what I'm going to do in the next few months. But what we don't talk about with revival is it's not just a one-time thing. Revival happens. It doesn't just happen. It starts with each individual.
Yeah.
Revival is individual before it's national.
That's right.
And it starts with each individual heart. That you have to be revived so that it's almost as if, like with the torch of freedom, when you light someone else's torch, they go light someone else's, and the fire passes. With revival, it's the same way. That's what discipleship is. You're passing the revival one person to another, and the revival is what sets you on fire for Christ.
So is that how you're feeling now? Tell us. Tell us how you feel, Christian.
Right.
Yes,
I said...
I can see the burn in you for the gospel.
Right.
But there's an article that I'm going to encourage everybody to read by, it's on the Washington Stand. I love their
Tony
publications. So good. And it's an article written by Josh Arnold, who I think is a great writer, but he talks about the two sides, the two different versions of conservatism. And I'm going to say that where we're focusing, because I think we saw both on display there at the memorial service, but I know for us in our organization, we are focused on a gospel-centric, biblical worldview discipleship. And when you are transformed by the Holy Spirit, then you want to go out and you want to love your neighbor. And loving your neighbor is being involved in this realm of policy, because there are so many really bad ones that have an impact on family. So, but back to your point about revival, Elisa Childers on her podcast, she's so good. She's talking about how this has changed me. I'm different. I'm going to do things differently. Revival is here, and it's going to be messy, right? We've never seen it like this in our lifetime. It's going to be messy.
I mean, you think of what revival is. Revival, like I said, starts individually,
Yeah.
but everyone is messy. Everyone's testimony is
Yeah.
messy, right?
Everybody's broken.
And you have to have a testimony to have revival. They go hand in hand. A testimony is the product of revival.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. So, what would be your closing comment that you would want people? And in this, I'm going to ask too that you, if you have an encouragement for young people for standing, being true to their convictions, and it's hard. I always say courage takes practice. You might miss that opportunity. You wish you would have spoken up before, and then you go back, you think about it, you prepare yourself, you become equipped. That's really important. So that next time you get the opportunity, you do speak into it. But in closing, what would be your encouragement to so many young people who are feeling it and wanting to take the next step?
It's twofold, because with young people, if I can also give you guys hope, I can't count the number of young people who have reached out to me after Charlie's death to tell me how it's impacted it. But it's always been something along the lines of this. Charlie's death has led me closer to Christ. Charlie's death has strengthened my faith. In some situations, like as we're seeing now with this revival, that Charlie's death has led me to have a personal relationship with Jesus. So that's what revival looks like in action. So to the young people, like the young people who texted me last night, who are feeling that conviction, who are feeling the apathy that they've had for so long, they haven't done enough. And frankly, no one's done enough. And we could all do more. Right. No one pushes themselves to their limits psychologically, for one. That's why Navy SEALs are far and few between. There's a few people who push themselves to extremes.
We like our comfort.
Right,
no, we like our comfort.
We do.
We like convenience.
We do.
It's an idol.
Right. You know what we should like more than convenience? Courage. And so to the young people who are feeling that same conviction, that same apathy, don't run away from it. That's not a bad feeling. That's a very good feeling. That's something that should drive us down. But there's a song called Courageous by Casting Crowns. I don't know if you know what it is. It's a very good message to young people today, and especially young men, because the revival that's happening and the conviction that we're feeling, it should be a weight for us.
Yeah.
It's a weight that should drive us down. It's not a weight that should make us low or anything. It's a weight that should drive us down to our knees. Because the only way we fight is on our knees. That's our battleground.
That's
is on our
typically
knees.
what people don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that prayer is your biggest weapon spiritually,
Right.
to move things and to move you, to move your heart, to move. God needs us to be communing with Him.
He does.
That's our power source.
He does. And it should drive us to our knees on prayer. My life is the product of prayer, the power of prayer. If you don't believe it, listen to the first 15 minutes of the show again and tell me you don't believe in prayer now. And so go pray. And one of the prayers that, because people are asking me, like, what can I do now? How can I get more involved? Before I tell them anything, there's one thing I'm asking of them. And it's what I prayed the night that Charlie was assassinated, because I was on the phone with a mentor of mine, and he told me this. Because I was like, what am I going to do now? I feel the weight of all of this, like I've talked with Morris, and how do I make sense of all of this? And what he told me was, just pray, Lord, what would you have me to do? And whatever that is that answer goes hand in hand. And if you could start tomorrow, you could do whatever you wanted to do, money and a job didn't matter, what would you do? Those two go hand in hand. Because for one, the second one shows the desires of your heart, which is Psalm 37:4 says, delight in me and I in you, and I'll give you the desires of your heart. So pray for your heart to be aligned with His, that His desires of His heart will become the desires of your heart, that you go and do what He wants you to do. And like in the 2 verses after verse 4 in Psalm 37, it says, commit your way to the Lord, and He will act. So wait for Him to answer, and continually pray that.
good.
And not just sit on it and pray it once. And I think people throw up prayers too often. They say, I'm gonna give you my thoughts and my prayers. We need praying people. We don't just need prayers. We don't just need you to say a prayer. Saying a prayer is long gone. It's not going to get you anywhere. We need praying people. We need prayers. It's active. It's not a one-time
It's
event.
active. Okay.
Prayer life is active. And my encouragement to young people, even if you're like struggling to read, you don't know where to start, the simple thing we can do is every morning, something I've done the past 2 years that's really hit me after being so close to death there, is every morning before I grab my phone, turn my alarm off, I get out of bed. On my way, I just hit my knees and I thank the Lord for the breath in my lungs, the blood in my veins, and the neurons firing in my brain after all of that.
Starting the day with
Right.
gratefulness.
That's the kind of heart we need to have
That's
towards
good.
the Lord.
A grateful heart, and be grateful for this moment that we're in.
Right.
And to give God praise for it.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of people like really focusing on everything that didn't go right or what was wrong with this message or that message.
Right.
Can we just give thanks for the moment that we're in, and just God, use us in this moment, use me in
Right.
this moment. Why don't we close this way?
Yeah.
Could you just pray? Let's close in prayer for the young people. And I'm not just going to say young people, because I've been contacted from people from all different generations that feel the burn and saying, Lord, what do you want me to do in this moment? Show me. Let's just pray for our state of Delaware. We've always known Delaware to be a very dark place when it comes to ideology and policy, and it's, you know, the view of the family. Government is the answer. You know, that's
Right.
that's putting it lightly, but that's some of the challenge that we have in the state. Yet God is awakening His church, and we've got to be focused on discipleship. I feel very challenged in that. Like you were saying,
Right.
a lot of us have no idea what it's like to disciple someone. It's to make
Or be discipled.
or be discipled.
proper
You're
word.
right, Christian. So it's moving from being just a follower of Christ to a disciple of Christ. So why don't you just go ahead and close us out in prayer for our state?
Lord, we thank you for bringing us here today, and even over the last 13 days, and that this is something none of us ever wanted to happen, but what you've done out of it is something we've only prayed for, and we thank you for that. We pray now that you would continue bringing this revival, that the revival that we've experienced now and that we saw on Sunday at the memorial, it wouldn't just be a spiritual high, but it wouldn't be an adrenaline rush, but it would be a sweeping revival that comes across this nation comes across individuals' hearts and minds, and we wouldn't just want your hand to reach out to us to get us up the next rung on the ladder, but we want to see your heart, and we want to see our heart become like yours. And for all these young people out there burning with this conviction and this apathy and this yearning for you, that you would give them the community around them, the pastors, the parents, the peers even, who are godly, to lead them closer to you, to lead them to you, that they would not feel alone in this, that they would know that this is of you and it's from you and it's for you, but that you would lead them closer to you in this moment. And for the future of this country, as we see in your word that Stephen was the first martyr, and that we know the one who persecuted him and put him to death was Saul, and that you used Paul to bring the early church to be, and that's why we're here today. So we pray that as Charlie was martyred, that you would bring a Saul to Paul moment, whether it's for President Trump himself, or it's for Elon, or it's for anyone else, that maybe this would just be a national Saul to Paul moment for all these people on the left and even on the right who don't know you. But we pray that the gospel would be centric of the future of this country, that you would continue to bring revival to this generation, that you would use our surrendered hearts, and that all of our hands and our feet would go where you want us to go, and do what you want us to do, with whoever you want us to do, whenever you want us to do it, that your Spirit would go before us, as your word says in Exodus 33, that we wouldn't go if you haven't gone before us, and that your Spirit would be with us, be beside us as we go and do your will, and that that the legacy we leave behind would be for you. And that's the legacy Charlie left behind, and I think that's the biggest lesson we can learn from him, is that our legacy is not of us, it's of you. So be above and below us, and protect us and lead us, and show us what you have for us to do. And that we would be your broken vessel, all for your service. And we pray all this in your name. Amen.
Jesus. Well, thank you, Christian. Thank you for being my first guest on my first podcast. And I hope to just
go like and subscribe.
Yeah, go like and subscribe. Thank you. Well, I'll get better and better at it, but thank you for your example.
And thank you.
And I'm
here because of you.
I'm delighted to be your friend. We love you. We're supporting you. You go with our prayers, and we're just excited to see what God does. I know I keep saying that, but we are excited to see what God does, and we'll just keep cheering you on what God's doing. Amen. Well, thank you for tuning in for the Forged podcast. We hope thank you for putting us into your diet of information, and we hope to be providing more and more of what's going on in our state as people are boldly and courageously standing for Christ and their convictions, and that we can sharpen one another. As I always say, this podcast is about winning, and a win is when truth is advanced. Go win.